Classic Lego Town is a daunting theme to collect. It saw hundreds upon hundreds of sets released during its 26-year run before being rebranded as City in 2005. And while there are many incredible sets from that time period, a few have surpassed their peers and ascended to legendary status. Things like the Airport Shuttle, Intercoastal Seaport, and Century Skyway are just a few of the sets that have become timeless town classics. Things like these fueled the dreams of kids everywhere, as we imagined what it would be like to have our own giant Lego town, just like the ones we saw in the catalogs and inserts. And from those hundreds, I think it would be impossible for me to pick a favorite, but the subject of today's video would most definitely be in the running. The Sail N Fly Marina transcends the typical everyday setting found in most town offerings and gives us something cool, something radical. If we compare a set like the Launch and Load Seaport to a white-collar office job dad, Sail N Fly Marina is like your favorite chain-smoking, Camaro-driving, Motley Crue jamming uncle, or whatever else passed for cool in the early 90s. It just has a different vibe, and I dig it. So let's dive in. Welcome to Trikbrix. Hello again everyone, I'm Jamie. I hope you've got your life preserver handy because today we're heading down to a place where the water's warm, the sun is shining, and the action is gonna be intense. It's race day at the marina, and everyone is gearing up for some high-octane, high-speed excitement. We've got last-minute adjustments, safety checks, fuel ups, and even some refreshments being prepared for the spectators, or perhaps for the victory celebration. Even our feathered friend has found himself a spot to take in all the action. Sail N Fly Marina was released in 1994, contains 709 pieces, 7 minifigures, and originally retailed for $85. Adjusted for inflation, that's equal to about $185 at the time of this recording. A stark reminder that Lego has always been expensive. A quick look at the box shows us some textbook 90s product photography on the front, with this beautiful water here and a nice cityscape in the background. This photography is such a big inspiration for me. And we get even more of it on the inside flap. Who else remembers walking through the Lego aisle back then and lifting these flaps in wonder at all the cool elements showcased here? Good times. The back of the box features some amazing alt builds, most of which look like they could have been official sets in their own right. This type of stuff is the basis for my often voiced opinion that Lego used to be about building and rebuilding, and we were encouraged to go beyond the last page of the instructions. It wasn't all about the end result back then, it was about developing and using your creative instincts. But that's a topic for another video. An amazing canvas for innumerable action-packed stories, you can almost hear the waves lapping and the seagulls screaming just by looking at this thing. And there's so much to look at here. First things first, it's huge. With a stud footprint of 67 by 42, it dwarfs most of the other sets in my collection, and definitely isn't going to fit on a standard shelf. Despite that, and the fact that we're dealing with irregular shapes and things jutting out everywhere, it's actually not too terrible to move around, thanks to its sturdy construction. But let's take a closer look. We're going to start our tour over at the right, where we'll find a small platform with a very nice pier light. This is the perfect height for our chase boat to dock, which we'll take a look at in a bit. Just a few steps away, and quite a bit more exciting, is the Marina Club, marked by this fantastic sign that perfectly complements the one seen in the Hot Rod Club, which, coincidentally, was released the same year. Unfortunately, just like this one, it's a stickered assembly, one sticker over multiple bricks. But the graphic design is so cool, we'll let it slide. Beneath the green arbor is a bar area with a few drinks ready to be served by our fancy pants waiter. He gets black hair, a face print with a 1930s movie star mustache, and an impeccably tailored tuxedo, denoting that this club is an exclusive, expensive place to wet your whistle. Further driving that point home is the fact that there's only one table, so you better get here early. Continuing along the boardwalk, we'll find a shop selling all things water sports. I love the white and green awning, which only ever appeared in one other set, 6489 Seaside Holiday Cottage from Paradisa, which is another theme I'd love to dedicate a retrospective to in the future. And really, this set fits in almost perfectly with Paradisa, hence the decision to use my custom Paradisa background. Speaking of rare parts, this was surprisingly the only non-Dacta style set to feature these red sloped window frames. They help give the center of the build a unique look in my eyes, and perfectly complement the two windows flanking the open doorway. Stepping inside, we'll see a few pieces of equipment available for purchase. A life vest, what I assume is meant to be a depth finder, and a brand new outboard motor. Over here is the till, which makes use of this printed slope element, and we can see that whoever is manning this post is pulling double duty as a bartender. There's a simple tap build next to the glasses. And while I believe this space is perfect as is, there's a ton of potential for adding your own details, like a few new helmets, walkie-talkies, a pair of oars, or some air tanks, just in case anyone wants to go scuba diving. Next door is where we'll find this fantastic little Octan branded machine shop. It's also here that we transition from standard plates to these prefab raised sections. I don't mind these, but they can be slightly more challenging to utilize than standard base plates. The classic Octan color scheme begins up top with these flags, and continues down the front with a single sticker here. I absolutely love the little details packed into this small space. We've got a trash can, drill press, tool rack, fire extinguisher, and a lathe. And lastly, a brand new race engine should you push yours just a little too hard during the race. The only thing I'd like to add is this small rack of motor oil. Believe it or not, for some reason, the Machinist might be my favorite minifig in the set. I'm not quite sure why he's wearing a hard hat, but I really like his black coveralls, and he's a useful guy to have in just about any town setting. I actually used to work in a machine shop years ago, and I think the designer did a bang-up job with this section. We're even given a few additional elements that correspond with it. A fuel can, along with a dolly to wheel it around, an oil can, and, keeping with the Octan branding, this awesome little delivery truck. Built in the classic 4-wide scale that ruled the 80s and 90s, this is such a charming, nostalgic reminder of days gone by. Again, we've got stickers over multiple elements here, unfortunately, but I do like the way they look. And I love that we get a functioning tailgate for loading and unloading the aforementioned fuel can. And fun fact, this green 1x4 hinge plate only came in 3 sets. The driver's compartment can either be accessed through the side doors or through the opening roof. And speaking of drivers, here's our delivery man, again decked out in the iconic red, white, and green. Back outside, we've got a nice sign here with the race schedule, which utilizes the same silhouette artwork as the club sign. Next to that is our real Lego palm tree, and a classic parrot. Having collected a large portion of the pirate sets, among other themes, I have dozens of both of these, but I never get tired of looking at them. This ramp makes driving our delivery truck up here a breeze. Out front, we'll find a dry dock, for when whatever's ailing our boat requires taking it out of the water. But just how are we supposed to do that? Well, you may have noticed this giant red crane here. This is kind of one of the defining features of the set, and in addition to looking cool, it adds a ton of playability. Primarily constructed of specialized elements, a few of which are set exclusive in red, it can be swiveled, extended, retracted, and of course, the hook can be raised and lowered via winch. In order to lift a boat from the water, we're given this contraption consisting of a modified round tile with lifting ring, and a 2x6 plate. The idea is that you're just supposed to attach this to the top of the boat, and while that certainly works, it looks a bit wonky to me, and I prefer to just use this part by itself. In addition to pulling boats from the water, the crane can also be utilized as an engine hoist. There's lots of space to dock watercraft all around here, and the final bit of detail comes in the form of this fuel pump. As simple as it is, I love this little build. We've got our nozzle here on a string, which of course can be undocked and used by the attendant to top off everyone's fuel tanks. And obviously, we gotta have some more octane logos here. And there's plenty of stuff to fuel up. 2 race boats, a chase boat, and this awesome seaplane. The design and color scheme of this is spot on, and it features some great detailing to boot. My only gripe is that the prop feels a bit undersized, but this was the best option at the time. I do like the yellow pips representing cylinders, and there's even an approximation of exhaust here on the side. The cockpit is home to a steering wheel, which may or may not be accurate for this type of plane. I'll let the pilots out there decide that. The tail is made up of a few surprisingly rare elements. The vertical stabilizer in plain black only came in one other set, the Bi-Wing Baron. And this specialized one-piece horizontal stabilizer only came in red in 2 other sets, Technic's Tread Trekker and the Eagle Stunt Flyer, another fantastic system plane. The yellow pontoons are pretty eye-catching, featuring some rare-for-the-era tiling, and I really like the way they're connected to the fuselage with these 3 struts. Our pilot is decked out with a helmet and life vest, beneath which we'll find a nice leather jacket, and his face print is one of my favorite when it comes to 90s town. But this is the extent of the fly in the Sail N Fly Marina, so let's check out our watercraft, none of which actually sail, strangely enough. First up is this little guy. It's pretty basic, but gets the job done. The small engine build is fantastic in its simplicity, and it's built on a hinge so we can raise and lower it, just like the real thing. The only other detail of note is the printed checkered flag. If you'd like, you can put these included start-finish markers in the back to be transported to their appropriate spots. The operator is fairly nondescript, but he gets a life vest as well as a red hat, and we can give him a radio for staying in touch with the shore. Nothing to write home about, but this is a fine inclusion. Next in line is something much more exciting. Measuring in at 27 by 6 in studs, this high-powered race boat is surprisingly fleshed out for essentially what amounts to a side build, and we get 2 of them. Typically, in a set like this, you could expect to see something a little more scaled down as far as vehicles go, but LEGO really went all out here. There's a hatch up front leading to some storage space, which is a great place to stow your helmet and PFD between races. The pilot's compartment is protected by a wraparound windshield, and inside we'll find a steering wheel and a seat, as well as this very cool printed gauge cluster. And just who is the lucky dog that gets to sit here? That would be the man in red. I'm a big fan of his star-spangled helmet, and if we take off the obligatory life jacket, we'll see a pretty nicely printed fire suit torso. Behind his office is some nice shaping courtesy of these 1x3 slopes and a small roll bar. But this section back here is my favorite. These stickered wing struts look great, adding some character to the boat, and a pair of radio antennas ensure our pilot has clear reception to his crew on shore. But the real treat is beneath all of this, because the whole thing swings up to reveal the heart of this beast, a mighty V8. This is how the instructions have you place this, but since we're not dealing with a front-wheel drive car here, it should be rotated 90 degrees. Thankfully, that's a super easy fix because it's not actually held in place by any studs. One of my all-time favorite quote-unquote play features is the ability for our minifigures to access the inner workings of a vehicle or machine and perform necessary maintenance. Remember that spare engine at the machine shop? Maybe the story goes that the engine builder squeezed a few more horsepower out of that one and wants to see how it performs, so you can swap it in. This type of stuff might seem boring to some, but for a young gearhead like I was, it was pure joy. And things like this engine were ripe for custom renditions. One last surprising fact about this is that these 3x3 red slopes were only ever found in this set. I think the design here is absolutely fantastic, and I'd say it's got a good chance of taking home the trophy today. The only thing standing in its way is this guy. While it shares a very similar structure, there are a few differences here beyond the color scheme. This one is slightly shorter, coming in at 23 studs long, and it lacks the storage compartment in the bow. The windshield here is a bit more streamlined, which I like, and we've got the same great removable engine feature, although this time the hatch opens toward the rear and gets some grille detail on top. The racer gets a blue fire suit, again with a perfectly good print, and in my opinion, he's given an even cooler helmet than his competitor. And of course, a life jacket. Safety first. Another common trait between the two boats is a subtle nose-up attitude, thanks to an extra plate being added above this forwardmost 2x2 modified inverted round tile. Another difference is the propulsion system. This is a Jetboat, while number 3 utilizes an inboard-outboard configuration. The livery here looks wonderful, and really makes me think the name of this set should have been the Sail N Fly Marina, presented by Octan. Which finally brings us to my biggest critique of both boats, this side sticker. Depending on the prowess of the applicator, each of these covers a minimum of 3 bricks, and absolutely makes those alt builds we saw on the back of the box impossible to recreate without destroying these. I feel incredibly fortunate that mine are in as good of condition as they are, since I purchased this second hand and these multiple bricks were just dangling together in the box. I can put up with stuff like the sign, but when the parts are this big, stickered assemblies can become a real problem. One of the biggest steps forward LEGO ever took was getting away from this nonsense. But while unfortunate, this is not nearly a big enough problem for me to poo-poo these. They're both amazing, and aside from the sticker, I think the designer knocked it out of the park. And I really believe the same can be said for the set as a whole. It would be a wonderful addition to any vintage town layout, and there are so many great sets that really pair well with it. I don't currently own any that utilize the same raised platform pieces, but I can see it being a blast to tie them all together somehow and create a nice long boardwalk. In my humble opinion, this is one of the greatest town sets LEGO ever produced, and if you can swing the roughly $150 to $200 it's going for these days, which actually is right in line with its inflation-adjusted MSRP, I don't think you'll be disappointed with it. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my amazing wife Emma, who got me this for my birthday last year. And if you didn't know, she also deserves some credit for really encouraging me to begin making videos again, and has supported me in it every step of the way. And while we're giving thanks, a huge one is owed to the members of Club Maniac. They're the main reason I've been able to put so much time and effort into these reviews, and their support has been just incredible. And we just did a really fun members-only AMA video, so there'll be a link in the description if you'd like to join and check it out. But that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this review, give it a share with someone and help me spread the love of vintage LEGO. I'll be back again soon, but until then, this has been Jamie for Trikbrix. As always, take care and play well.